Marine Le Pen says multiculturalism ends in war. She's predicted to knock Nicolas Sarkozy out of France's presidential elections next year. Madame Le Pen, the first words of your party programme are "Let's liberate France." Liberate it from what?
I want to free France from the EU straitjacket. The European Union wants to force 150 million immigrants on us over the next 30 years. They say we're not having enough babies. Well, let's encourage people to have kids, as they do elsewhere in the world, rather than wave in the immigrants. The EU's expanding at France's expense. We no longer control our own territory, our own currency, or our own laws. We don't decide who comes in or stays in our country. They impose directives on us without even consulting people. All this is hurting our economy and discouraging foreign investment. Secondly, we must liberate the French from the insides, free them from this guilt that their leaders have placed on them for so many years, that we're bad people, that we're colonialists. The French must rediscover a love for themselves, love for their culture and civilization, which has been the admiration of people around the world.
You say France is on the brink of an Egyptian revolution. How do you mean?
There's horrific social suffering in our country. A divide's forming between a tiny oligarchy, which systematically grabs profits in all situations, and the people on whom they impose permanent sacrifice. France has 5 million unemployed, 6 million workers living in poverty. There's an incredibly strong sense of injustice, like the Egyptian people feel, and that's driving us.
Does France bombing Libya raise the risk of a terrorist attack on France?
Yes, this creates two major threats. First, there's now more risk of a terrorist attack. For a start, there aren't bad guys on one side and good guys on the other. We know perfectly well the so-called rebels are from a tribe with many former jihadists who fought in Iraq and Afghanistan. We're trying to put them in power, people who don't always have a peaceful, friendly attitude to our country. The second major threat is seeing a flood of immigrants, because the effect we're having is to open up Libya's borders.
There are around 6 million Muslims in France. Do you want to bring that number down?
There are probably 6 to 7 million Muslims here already, plus additional immigration on a massive scale each year. This is an organised replacement of our population. This threatens our very survival. We don't have the means to integrate those who are already here. The result is endless cultural conflict.
When you were a lawyer before becoming a politician, you had to defend illegal immigrants. What did that teach you about them?
It didn't teach me anything. What's more, I didn't feel any contradiction then, and I feel none now. Yes, I fight immigration, which is an economic process used by leaders with consequences on people's everyday life. It doesn't mean I hate immigrants. Immigrants are human beings who must be treated with dignity and have the right to be defended according to the laws of the country. I understand immigrants want a better future here, but I honestly say to them, you can't find a better future here. We're finding it hard to give a better future to our own people as it is.
You think the euro is bad for your country. If you become president, how soon will France leave the euro?
It will take 6 months to renegotiate a Europe à la carte. The EU will have to accept member states having a certain number of treaties, because those treaties are destructive. I refuse to accept the imposition of treaties that harm the interests of my people.
What methods is the French establishment using to stop you getting to power?
We're forced to fight non-stop for the right to express ourselves and our ideas. Our media presence is far smaller than our share of the vote. We're confronted with difficulties every day. Why? Because we're a party of patriots, because we defend our homeland. They have another ideology, the ideology of globalisation and dissolution of our identities. Nations and homelands are replaced by the law of free trade, which governs everything. Since we defend our country and give back power to the people, so a nation can be sovereign and people can make their own decisions, the political elite sees us as a threat.
You're often described as anti-Arab, but you find some of Israel's actions unacceptable.
Israel is making a huge political mistake. Building settlements on Palestinian land is colonialisation. It's a mistake for Israel because it's not even viable as a policy. I strongly believe Israel has the right to security, but Palestine also has a right to a territory with independence and secure borders, which isn't the case at the moment.
Why do you call Russia France's most important ally?
Russia is part of our civilization. We have common roots, a long history of great friendship between Russia and France. I find it insane that we're placed under the American yoke and systematically have to bow to America's decisions. I believe we should turn to Russia for economic and energy partnerships. I think very objectively this Cold War imposed by America on relations with Russia is a huge political error.